Welcome to the Sales Prospectors Show, supported by Leaf, a sales rep and a 5,000 company, helping our clients grow sales by securing guaranteed appointments, qualified leads, and guaranteed contracts for their services and products across the U.S. I'm your host, Gil Pagan. You can find us on all social media channels and at leafasalesrep.com. Thank you for listening in. It's going to be a great one today.
Oh my, yes, it's going to be a good one today. I got a young lady by the name of Karen Hayward, who is with Chief Outsiders, and they bring to bear heavy-hitting marketing, chief marketing officers to organizations to help them do a whole bunch of good marketing stuff. And we're going to talk marketing and sales today and what they do, and talk a little bit about Karen and what she does there, and how we can together share what the organization does so that companies who listen to this podcast can connect with them. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're looking forward to getting right into this thing. And, I love talking about marketing and sales. This is right in my wheelhouse. All the other stuff that we do, technology and all that, I enjoy that too. But this is really exciting stuff. Lead gen and getting your customers, the profiles, all that kind of stuff is exciting for me. So tell us a little bit about you and your background before you landed at this organization called Chief Outsiders. Go right into it.
Well, I'm Canadian. I grew up in Montreal, and I spent 20 years at Xerox Canada moving between sales and marketing. And then when I got to the top of the pile, it was time for a bigger playground, and decided to immigrate and landed in Silicon Valley. Worked for a couple of startups, which we sold to companies like Adobe and Earthlink. And then I really wanted to figure out how to take all the learning I had, especially through my years at Xerox, and really bring it to the mid-market CEO and help them make a difference in their go-to-market and sales and marketing effectiveness.
Wow. So Canada, is that always gonna get a kick out of that. How you doing, A? I said, I'm doing good. How about you, B? So I got you. So we're talking with Karen Hayward of Chief Outsiders, and we're going to get into a conversation here about their business. They provide fractional chief marketing officers, and some of these people, I've seen their backgrounds, and I know the owner and founder of the company. We met long time ago at an Inc. 5000 company, Inc. 5000 conference in 2013, I think. Got a picture up there somewhere, not with him, but just with the conference. Great company, and you guys got some really good, experienced people. So tell us what the organization does, and how do you help companies get more leads and get their ideal customers and all that kind of good stuff. And I'm going to pop in and ask questions as we move along. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we are a firm of fractional part-time chief marketing officers. So really, to join the firm, everyone comes from a Fortune 1000 background where they've been an operating chief marketing officer or a senior vice president of marketing. And what we're able to do is really take all of the learnings and the training that people have had over the course of their careers and really bring that along with a market-based framework to small and high growth and mid-market companies that really could never afford to get access to that kind of talent. And we offer that talent really when companies need it most. And that's really when they want to build a growth plan, when they want to accelerate their growth, or they want to take their go-to-market plan to the next level. So we are on demand, easy to work with, and just bring an extraordinary level of experience and talent to a company.
Wow, that's great. So an example of a client, you don't have to give them the name or anything, but just an example of a client that had a particular challenge. Let's try to focus this conversation a bit. Let's say they needed more MQLs, marketing qualified leads, or SQL, sales qualified leads. They want to talk to more people. give us an example of a client like that. It could be in the SaaS space, B2B, or whatever you think is relevant, just to share how you guys would come in and say, this is what we need to do to get you to where you want to be.
Well, there's sort of two examples that pop into my mind. One is an environmental services firm on the West Coast that, the CEO was really frustrated, and, he coined the problem. We have a lack of predictable revenue growth. And it was almost like what happened was happening by accident or by outcome. And in that case, we went in and basically built them a much more focused and targeted plan, along with helping them hire a sales leader and developing the sales process. The second example I would give you is more tactical. And, we got a call from an IT services CEO who said, you know what, I need more marketing qualified leads. We're not hitting our plan. And when we say a marketing qualified lead, it's really an inbound inquiry that you can hopefully give to the salesperson to then qualify and create revenue from. And so we started working with that CEO, and what we found, basically we did an X-ray of their pipeline. Mm-hmm. And we found that they really didn't need more marketing qualified leads. What they really needed is a better process to push them through the sales funnel. They had lots of leads. They had lots of the right job title in terms of what they were doing, but they had a really big issue in terms of fallout. They were closing less than 30% of their proposals. Mm-hmm. And in a considered purchase, that number should really be at 70%. So we really went through a simulated sales call, brought in best practices, helped them reshape their proposal process so that they could then be much more effective mm-hmm. in those opportunities and move their win rate to 50 and then 60% of the proposals. So big deal. And we did that by doing win-loss analysis and understanding why people were not converting at the proposal stage.
No, that's good. And the environmental example, service example, you said that you went in and looked at. They were up and down in revenue. I guess it wasn't consistent, wasn't predictable. What did you look at kind of from a framework perspective when it comes to their marketing?
Yeah, so we think about what is the easiest way to grow a business. Mm-hmm. And for most B2B businesses, that's really looking at your existing client base. So the first thing we do is we map out from top revenue to smallest client, and then we look at, on the other vector, their growth potential. Mm-hmm. So we could map out right away what segments of clients had the biggest opportunity and what segments of clients was there the most vulnerability, where we had very large accounts that only knew the salesperson and really needed to build out programs to get other executives involved for client retention purposes. Mm-hmm. But on the opportunity, you have to figure out as a company, what are your strengths and how can you migrate your strengths into programs that really start to get at the heart of your ideal customer profile. And in that case, we really built out industry-focused programs. So we said, here are the top 3 industries that are going to have the biggest growth for this type of service. Mm-hmm. Who are the buyers? Where do those buyers, if they're fish, where do they swim? What are the ponds they swim in? And therefore, how should we go out and get them, whether it's thought leadership, whether it's attending trade shows, whether it's having targeted outbound email campaigns, mm-hmm. bringing them to the website with really interesting content for them.
Wow! So when you're looking at the marketing landscape for middle market companies and enterprise clients, we'll get to the small business in a minute. But when you look at the middle market and enterprise, what do you see across a few industries as some of the challenges that these companies are facing, particularly now, not necessarily with COVID or anything, but just in general with getting attention okay, with their service and their product in the environment that we're in right now, where people are being bombarded with messaging and a lot of things like that?
Yeah, and it's really changed over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, and then of course accelerated by COVID. But what these, and it doesn't matter whether you're an industrial CEO company, whether you're healthcare, all of these companies have buyers where two things have happened. Either their needs have changed or the way they buy has changed. And let me focus on the way they buy, because that is basically across the board. If you think about it, if I were to ask you, you got to go buy a new car, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Go on Google or a platform and search.
Right.
Research.
And so if these companies don't have a digital strategy that supports their buyer's journey, they don't even reach the consideration phase. And I think McKinsey has done the best work in this area to really publish information, which if anyone wants to hit me at khayward@chiefoutsiders.com, I'm happy to send them the research that says buyers want to go online, they want to explore the solutions, they want to determine who they want to invest time with. And so that means that a salesperson has much less time to influence the buy, even to get into that opportunity, because they're already saying, oh, well, you know what? I went online, they had 2 reviews and one was and so I'm going to just discount that company. Or they've gone on LinkedIn and said, who's bought an XYZ solution lately? And they're getting information from peer groups. So if you don't have a growth strategy that has a significant component of helping your company be found when someone is ready to buy, you are going to miss out big time.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. When we speak to, at least when I sometimes speak to prospects, they will say, and some of this could be actually true. We're going to get into some of the nuts and bolts here. Some of it could be true. Some of it could be, we're speaking to 5 or 6 companies.
Right.
And I said, really? I said, why would you want to put yourself through all of that? I could barely focus with 3. I'm looking for vendors. I got 3 vendors. I'm going to talk to you, and then I'm going to make a decision. You're talking to 7? I'm like, okay. I said, man, you got a lot of time on your hands. Anyway, they are searching online and obviously get to us, and they read our content, they see us on LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff, and then they find us, and then we have a conversation, and then we get in that discussion with them about that. But so I agree with you that you got to have some kind of digital online presence, that gives you credibility and makes you a subject matter expert kind of thing, and people see you and then they find you and they engage. So that said, what do you see when we're looking at organizations that are larger, again, middle market to the larger companies, how they're making decisions and finding vendors, right? How are they, like, I've had conversations with some publicly traded CEOs, and we've interviewed publicly traded CTOs, a couple, on this program. And they've told us what their buying strategy is when they're looking at a vendor. And so my question to you is, what have you seen typically from a marketing side or an internal kind of perspective of how are these companies finding and deciding to look for vendors when they're looking for anything? I'm talking about the middle market and the larger enterprises. The smaller businesses are different. A lot of them will go online as well, and they'll search and they'll fill out a form and they'll contact you. But some of the big players, they have a different process. So I'm just trying to get your insight. What has been your experience?
Yeah, I think a lot of that, those wagers that they make, those bets they make on vendors have big implications. So what we see is, leveraging partners who have referrals for them. They can say, hey, I've worked for this vendor. So it could be a peer group. It could be an industry trade association. but you're looking for people who have worked with those companies to solve that problem. You know, and one of the things I would say is when you're trying to fill the top of your funnel, and this goes to sales as well, you know, this is not, hey, let me just tell you what we do and throw up all over you with a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
I think in this world of virtual selling, it really has to be much, much, much more focused on the buyer-centric selling, and understand, well, how are you going to make this decision, and how can I serve you best as you make this decision? And so I think there's got to be a much bigger focus on, here are the types of problems we solve, because I think we spend so much time talking about, here are bells and whistles and features, and then the client has to figure out, well, does that actually solve the problem I have? And so I think salespeople and marketing people really have to figure out, how do we serve you best when you're trying to understand if we could be a good fit or not? And I think the answer to that is really comes in asking really deep, insightful questions about the organization, the culture, and how that, you know, comes together.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Sometimes when we're looking at our call recordings and we're looking at some of the CRM notes of the prospects that we're talking to for our clients, but also for ourselves, we'll realize that some of the questions that we're asking some of the prospects, they don't want to go into a lot of detail or peel back the onion, if you will, to give us more insight so we can determine if we could help and give us that information so that we could give them a proposal or something. Some of them just want to go flat out to, what do you provide? The tactical, right? What do you provide? How much is it? You know, that kind of thing. And right away, we know that they are kicking tires, speaking to a whole bunch of different people to see what the market is, you know, sharing with them on how the models work. And just very similar probably to marketing companies, not necessarily you guys, but marketing companies in general. They'll look at, well, you know, how do you generate leads, and what is your process to get us leads, and how are you going to, you know, give us MQLs and all these kind of things. And when they contract with an agency, let's say, not necessarily you guys are on the strategy side, right? You're on the big picture, and then you may bring in vendors to work with companies, but you're more like the think tank, right? How do we get you to where you want to be? And we've experienced that with prospects for our clients, but also ourselves as well. So the when you're looking at the landscape, and we'll talk a little bit about you know, maybe, you know, tools that you may be seeing in the marketplace. Everybody's throwing out marketing automation, AI, don't talk to anybody, you know, chat stuff. And I'm like, the sales, they said the sales rep's going to go away. You're going to speak to anybody. You don't need a salesperson. And I'm on this. I'm saying, go believe that. And we'll still be here, right? So what is your, I mean, when you're looking at the landscape from a marketing perspective on the B2B side, what do you see as tools and all these kind of, you know, processes that people are trying to implement without having to talk to anybody? And, you know, I just, I don't think it matters. I think the conversation matters a lot live when you get into these big ticket, middle market, large enterprises, you know, kind of business. The small stuff, a couple of $100, I ain't got to talk to nobody. You know what I mean? So, I mean, what are your thoughts about what's going on in the landscape, B2B and all that?
Yeah. So look, building on what I've said to this point is that the buyer is going deeper in the sales funnel, doing their own research.
Right.
So especially in a technical buy where the buyer, you know, is probably an introvert and doesn't want to and a millennial. My children don't use the telephone. They all have smartphones, but they don't use them.
They text. I know they text.
Right. And so I would say really good marketing today, starts with market insight that then informs the strategy that then drives execution. So let me give you a couple of execution tactics that I think are important. If you have a good strategy and you know that you want to target these 3 segments, or you have pricing strategies that target different size companies, and someone comes to your website, they expect immediate information, right? People have zero patience anymore. They want to have an interaction as if they're on the telephone, but they're not. So there's this whole, notion of conversational marketing that uses artificial intelligence. And so it would be that, I land on a website and I am looking for pricing. I explore the website. I go, yeah, this looks interesting. I don't even know if it's in my wheelhouse. Could I afford it? And a bot comes up and it says, oh, what brought you to our website today? Interesting, right? So they're looking to understand, what problem am I there to solve? Do you want more meetings with salespeople? Do you want, more demos, or do you want more freemium signups for your website? Assuming that's what this example does. And then the person says, oh, I want more demos for my sales team. So then it goes down the next track, which is, oh, tell us about the size of your company. Well, we're this or that. And then as soon as you get to tell us who you target C-level, mid-level, or, entry level. So they're streaming the opportunity and qualifying it so that when they transfer hot to a salesperson, they have a pretty good idea of what brought them there, what problem they're trying to solve, and they can stream them to the person that can then answer the question. And so it also provides immediate information, right? Because nobody has patience to wait 24 hours for a sales call. All those leads go cold, right? You know that. So I think conversational marketing using artificial intelligence, there are a couple of vendors, and it's become much more democratized. It's much more accessible to a mid-market company today. They don't have to spend, what these very large companies do. And if you think about it in a practical way, it can really help shorten the overall sales cycle and be much more productive for the salespeople that you do have.
That's great. That's great. When we discuss small businesses, right, and I want to make sure that we cover some points there on the small business side. Many of the small businesses have problems with top of the funnel, right? Getting leads and the like, and getting the good leads and so forth. And they don't have a lot of resources to be processing leads and wasting time with talking to non-qualified ones.
Yeah.
You don't have bodies. Hence, that's why, people contract out to us, right? Because they don't have the bodies. So we have the bodies, right? So we see a lot of this. When you're looking at clients for yourself, for chief outsiders, you have a client profile, that like Lisa sales rep does. We have a client profile, and everybody should have their own client profile, right? So we're the ones that are qualified for us and not qualified, and what's qualified for you. So when you're looking at small businesses that need top of the funnel, and they need some strategy and help, and all that entails. Some of it is software, some is AI, some is tactical things. What can chief outsiders do for the small business side as well, and make it, without going into detail maybe about pricing, but if a company has, let's say, 20 employees, and they're whatever industry, and they're trying to grow and they need more leads and stuff, can chief outsiders be a resource, and how? Can you give a little insight into that, and maybe go into the middle market too a little bit, maybe the enterprise?
Yeah, I think for any CEO who wants to grow their business in a really meaningful way, it behooves you to do it with a marketing plan that's based on market insights and how you're going to win against your competitors. So, the first thing is, why are you winning? Why are you losing? And then building a plan that says, look, here's our ideal customer profile. So many of these companies end up having their salespeople call on everybody because they have no customer profile. So, there are just some basic things you can do, to make your sales force more productive. And I love the fact that, in your case, you can lease a salesperson. Right? You don't even have to, because a lot of these companies don't know how to hire them, and they don't know how to manage them. because that's not what they spend their time doing. They don't have, a seasoned VP of sales at the helm who can focus on that. So, in a mid-market company, I think it's really about getting your story straight, understanding what's relevant to the buyer, getting the right message, getting the right buyer persona. And I do believe that today you do need a mix of people, process, and technology. And whether the people are outsourced or on staff, you have to do that value equation. You have to make those decisions carefully in terms of what you're going to build and what you want to count on other experts for. So I think, and I guess the other thing I'd say is today, any CEO would be well served to broaden their perspective on marketing and talk about how they can leverage marketing to attract new employees. You've got CEOs with these incredibly successful companies that need machinists to run the machines. And they can't attract them because when someone goes to their website, they go, well, that looks like a 1980s kind of company. And there's nothing on there about who's behind the company or what's in it for the employee. It's just not focused, right? It's an online brochure that screams in a really ugly way, here's what we do, right? That doesn't excite a prospect versus they can look at another company and say, wow, that company's on it. They've got great benefits. They're talking to me. And so that's what, is important. So whether it's attracting customers to the top of your funnel or employees to the top of your employee funnel, because there's a war for talent right now. And so I think you gotta think about both. And certainly your company is an awesome vehicle for people who are in a war for talent, because that's what you specialize in. So I think it's all about finding the opportunities to insource, to outsource, and knit that little engine together to really grow the business.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that some of the things that we as marketing and salespeople take for granted that come almost like second nature to us, second nature to a lot of the companies that we engage with, and the founders and the like. Is just a good example, the machinist example, and runs a great company, has $10 million in revenue, and the cranking out product, but they can't bring on more clients, or the website is outdated, or they don't have a lead gen program. It's just they got into an industry a long time ago, and they've been serving it. They've been doing well, so it's a very good example that they don't necessarily know what challenges they face.
I think every company that has grown by referral reaches that point of diminishing returns.
They tap it out.
And I just ran into a company yesterday that we're doing some work for. They're a marketing agency, and they've grown by referral. And because they've grown by referral, they've been able to accelerate their sales process, because the prospect comes to them and says, yeah, I've heard all about your company. Okay, how do we get started? Right? Now,
that's easy.
Referrals are the best, right? Everybody knows. We all love a good referral.
Right.
But if you want to grow your company beyond referrals, your sales process has to adapt, because now you're talking to people that don't really know you. And so you have to slow down the sales process in order to accelerate to an order sometimes. And so, figuring out how to make that transition in that mid-market company from referral-based selling to filling the top of your funnel with people who come to you who don't really know you, that's serving two entirely different prospect experiences and expectations. And so I think that's one of the bigger challenges these mid-market companies are facing, because, the whole digital age has totally accelerated with COVID, right? And so salespeople are being brought into the sales process much later. And so what are you doing as a mid-market CEO to really say, what does my engine to, grow the business really need to look like going forward?
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's interesting that when we talk to companies who have that referral base of clients and they have not really gone out of that and prospected and made phone calls and did an aggressive outreach campaign, whether that's via email, social media, phone calls, trade shows, that kind
or
of
all of them, omni-channel.
Right, exactly, right. And they just have not done that. They are used to the warm lead. And then we tell them that this is what you need to do. Well, our business doesn't work that way. I said, well, listen, you know, you gotta, if you don't want them to pick up the phone, follow up with a client, a prospect, give them a quote, follow up with them again, get them an email, make a phone call, try to close the sale. And they say, well, we're going to seem like we're badgering them. I said, listen, you know, you're not badgering them. You are going after them and they're agreeing to follow up, to follow through, to close the sale. And then we encounter companies like that quite often. They got used to the referral part and they feel bad about going after a prospect. And we have to end up educating. Listen, we don't train here. We don't train, we don't teach, we don't consult. We're doing none of that stuff. You know, we actually execute, get the lead, close the deal. That's what we do. And we have guys like you, you know, which is great. You know, teams like you that come up with the strategy and the plan and bring in vendors to help grow the company and bring people like us to the table. And we've had these conversations, and it just the referral part. One who's grow their business by referral has to realize that they have to change their operational approach to grow and scale, and that's gonna it will make them uncomfortable. I'll give you a very simple example. For us, we had a client for about 5 years, and we put 4 people inside their offices, inside salespeople. These were our people, contract inside in their offices. They had offices for them, and they had their CRM, computers, phones, everything. There was a big contract with us, and we were calling on behalf of them. So, you know, we're branded, so we're calling on behalf of this company. They were selling franchise websites, websites to franchisees. They had a master franchise contract, and we was calling the franchisees.
Got it.
Get those websites sold. So we were we were banging them out. We were 50 a month, 60 a month. We were closing them, right? Then we started getting, we got a couple of phone calls back into the owner of that company that we had a contract with, saying, you know, I spoke to 2 of your reps, and you know, they wouldn't take no for an answer. They kept on pushing and pushing to try to close the sale, and then we got the call saying that, hey, Gil, your people a little bit, you know, pushing. And I told the guy, I said, listen, how many sales did we close for you last month? 65. How many closed before that? 80. I said, listen, if you don't get a phone call every once in a while that somebody's badgering somebody, you know, that's a good thing. You know, that be happy that's happening, because you know that we're doing what we got to do. Now, some people disagree with that. Don't call. We don't want to get the phone call. I said, well, listen, if you're not getting a phone call every once in a while, the sales people are trying to follow through to close the deal, then, you know, that's okay. Then look at your numbers and look at ours. So we blew out their numbers, and they eventually implemented our model, and they hired their own people, and they said, this is the way you got to do it. But we got a few phone calls of complaints because we were, but you know, so
but you know, at the end of the day, I think the best practice is that it takes 7 touches to disposition a target. When I say disposition, I mean to come to a conclusion as to whether or not they could be an opportunity. And I think you got to go email, phone, email, phone. I mean, and you have to have different email, different content and different emails looking for different things as you're on that kind of touch point to a journey. It's not the same email, and you can't have your salespeople writing the emails. They have to be written properly in a very thoughtful way. And I think, you know, and then you have to do surround sound. So what are you doing from a social perspective? Are you following them on LinkedIn? And what are the trigger events for your business? You know, if you're a cybersecurity firm, you need to be tracking CIOs that transition, CTOs that transition. I mean, it's gotten a lot more sophisticated, and you really have to think through and figure out, what is my system to help empower my salespeople.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think that for your perspective, from a chief outsider's perspective, what is the ideal client for you? I know you serve different industries and different sizes, but generally speaking, they have a profile. Okay, they do. And again, they have different needs, but generally there's going to be some commonality, right, in that profile. And you know that, for example, I'm assuming if a company has 4 employees and they're really small, they may not be the right fit for you because they can't afford you. Whatever, I don't know what you charge, but so give us a little sense of these are an ideal scenario. These are ideal clients, generally speaking.
Yeah, I think it's the companies for the most part that have proven product market fit and are ready to scale. So they would be companies 10 million to 200 million where there's no vice president of marketing. Now, having said that, we do work at the enterprise level where we are doing projects for a CMO who just wants to carve off and say, I need this project to go right. I'm overwhelmed. I need this to happen. And we can take that project and run with it. But for the most part, it is that CEO who has not really done a lot of marketing, who doesn't really understand the power of it. They've maybe done some random acts of marketing and they haven't worked, and they just really want to build a plan to grow their business and are very clear on what outcomes they want. So the first thing we'll do is say, well, where do you want to take the business in, the next couple of years? And then we work backwards from the business plan to say, okay, so here's how we're gonna go forward and build the engine to grow that business.
Gotcha. That's great. So we're gonna go into some rapid fire questions here, and then we're gonna summarize and wrap up more about you. So are you a coffee drinker?
Totally. I'm on my 3rd cup already.
Hot or cold?
Hot coffee.
Hot coffee. All right. You are a pizza person?
Love pizza, but it doesn't love my waistline.
You put pineapple on pizza with ham, or you're
no?
Okay.
I'm a pepperoni, mushroom, extra cheese gal.
Ooh, yeah. Now you're talking. Sans the mushroom. But that said, if you had the opportunity to go anywhere and time and money was not an issue for you, where would you go?
Well, I've been to a lot of places, but next on our time and money, no issue. One of the places I'm dreaming about going to is Africa, South Africa.
Nice. It's hot.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Hamburgers?
Love them. I'm into those lettuce wrapped burgers that In-N-Out does.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, they're called protein style. So they're good. You save the calories on the bun.
I got you. Yeah, cut the carbs out, right? I hear you. If you had a superpower, it doesn't have to be business related, by the way. Okay, it could be anything. If you had a superpower, what would that superpower be?
Bring peace to the world.
Wow. Okay. Good for you. That's really that's really cool. You an Apple or an Android gal?
I'm an Apple girl. love my smartphone.
Gotcha. When you're do you listen to podcasts and streaming stuff, or do you go into the theater to see a movie anymore? I mean, forget about COVID for a minute, just assuming everything is normal. What do you do to consume content?
I do love watching movies, and we have a big, huge TV screen in our living room. So we've found not so much the need to go to a movie theater, but if we feel like it's going to really be a different experience, in a real maybe action film, kind of thing, we'll do
Surround
that.
Sound and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
we're kind of homebodies that way, I think.
Okay, well, that's fine. And that's good. So 30-second wrap up of the value prop of chief outsiders and how they can help companies deal with marketing challenges, strategy, vision, that kind of thing. It could be longer than 30 seconds. That's fine. Just kind of a wrap us up.
Yeah, so Chief Outsiders is a marketing is a executive as a service firm. So we go in and help a CEO. We take the vision out of his or her head and really help them make it come alive by bringing to bear the right people, process, technology with a well-documented growth plan that outlines exactly where we need to go and how we're going to get there to achieve the outcomes that CEO wants.
Excellent. We've been chatting with Karen Hayward of Chief Outsiders. It's been a great conversation. Thanks so much for sharing what you guys do and going through a couple of scenarios with us and the audience. And I would hope that you guys finish this year strong and you come out of 2022 guns blazing and to grab market share and grow the business.
You bet. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Glad to be with you.